All right, Freddie, we're back with the educator and the hustler. It's been a little bit,
Hmm.
and we were on hiatus, I'll say. That's a
Yep.
fancy word for saying lots of life was happening for both of us the last few months. So
Yep.
we're back today, ironically, to talk about change and transition and stuff. So I'm
Hmm.
super excited that we're back together to do this today.
Yeah, me too. I'm so glad to be back here. Life has happens and it's really happening. And we're on here, and that's why I'm grateful for this because it's real. It's us. And we can talk about life, and hopefully we can help bless some other people with some wisdom about how we get through our life because we all got it.
Absolutely. And it feels like a lot of people are going through personal transitions right now,
Hmm.
but also it
Hmm.
feels like the world is going through a lot of transition. So I think it's
Absolutely.
something that is impacting everybody right now. Uh, I want, I think we should probably start talking with just what's our own like sort of personal transitions that we've gone through.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think when we notice what we learned about ourselves, it helps other people, identify what they can learn about themselves too with transition. So what's you want to start maybe with what transition that
Yes.
you've been through?
So um, it's funny, right? You know, So by God's grace, next month I'll have 9 years sober, right? Um,
Amazing. Congratulations.
thank you. You know, I had massive help. Found people like Laura, right? So no, I say that to say this, right? So as with this business, I've been living off it now for 2 years, right? And the biggest transition I've had was, like going from, I worked at Panera Bread for 5 years while I built my company. And the biggest
And talk
question
about your
was,
company.
yeah,
Be
so
real clear for people that may not know.
yeah, okay, yeah, let me explain. So I've been extremely blessed that what I do is I travel to actually I can say the globe now. Um, and I share my story of my life, and my sobriety, and I speak on mental illness and substance use disorder and all these big words, pedagogy and retention. Bottom line, I inspire and lift people up, and I talk to people about these real issues we deal with: mental health and family dynamics and dysfunction and all the stuff that we all dealing with. I put a face to it, and that's what I do for a living. And like I'm really blessed to do it. And so, saying that to say, I started it when I went back to school, and I was working at Panera Bread while building it. And the question was, could I live off it? And I remember my wife saying to me, "You need to make this amount for you to be able to leave Panera." And then I hit that amount, and it was like, okay. And so we left. And so the first year, it was it was And then the next year wasn't as fruitful. And so I'm like, but I'm still living off it. Like I'm still able to, take care of what I need to take care of. I'm still okay. But there's a stress to it because it's my own business. And the transition was I'm no longer at Panera. I'm at this job. But let me tell you what happened. So what I realized about Panera was that I was trying to make more money. I was like, I'm not at Panera. It's not enough money. I got a family. It's not enough money. Blah blah blah. Well, what I realized was that Panera wasn't really even about the money. When I left Panera, what was hard about the transition is that I no longer had those 2 days a week where when I walked in there, I had five people guaranteed that was checking on me. Not the people I work with. I had what I call Panera moms, and I had Brother Ed, and I had these people, these older folks that go on Panera, and they're following my story with me. They're walking the journey with me. Freddie, how you doing? You good? Love you, son. I mean, you're talking about women that look at me as they son. Hug, love, kiss me in the mouth. They husbands hug, love, kiss me. They don't kiss me in the mouth, but they kiss me. You know what I mean? Like my point is, I've been to funerals, I've been to wakes, I've been to weddings. Like these people treat me, we family, like we real life. Like when my mom got sick, they knitted her a blanket. I mean, giving me money. I mean, like literally real life family. And I was like, when I was at home and like I'm calling, I'm emailing, you know how this business is with these schools. And I'm like, something's missing. And it was a lesson. a job should not just be money. Like for me, I figured it out. Like I wasn't really going to Panera for the money. I was going there twice a week to get my soul filled. And my wife had told me, she said, Freddie, like, do you realize what you had at Panera? She was like, you know how many people are making the money they want to make and they're able to provide, but they're not getting their soul filled from the job. And that was the transition that I don't have those 2 days a week where I could go in there sad and the job, I might not like the job, but the spiritual nourishment I'm getting from the people there is unreplaceable. And so you know what I had to do? I had to add those 2 days a week back in. So now I drive over to Panera 2 days a week when I'm feeling sad, when I'm low, to get that nourishment back in me. So I'm not going over there for the job. I'm going over to get filled up. So that's
That's
what I'm saying.
awesome. So you found a way to find your community again and go back to your
Yeah.
community and build a new community. I think I experienced something very similar.
Yeah.
And I think you bring up a really good point about the the passion. Sometimes we work in spaces that are not passionate areas for us,
Right.
but they fill us in another way, right? And I think that's why it's so important that schools and companies and businesses build a culture,
Yep.
whether formally or informally among the staff, that
Yep.
feels, and I'm careful to say, like, it may not feel like family because not everyone has a great, you know relationship with family, but it feels
Yep.
like community, right? It feels
Yep.
supportive, and it feels like if you don't go there, your soul is missing out on something, right?
Yep.
And everyone should be so lucky to be able to have that, whether it's kids in schools or adults that work in schools or anywhere else, right? is
Yep.
is that idea that you're not going through something alone ever, whether it's you're not going through your day alone, you're not going through a major life transition alone, whatever that is. And I think, that's something you and I have talked about too, that when I left the school last year, I didn't have that either. I had, people that I was still close with, but I really had to seek out those people in those communities to find my people again that I could see or connect with on a daily basis or a weekly basis. And I think that goes a lot to the mental health that you're always talking about too. Is it does impact your mental health when you don't have your people, or you don't know who your people are. And I think that that's so, so important, especially when we're talking about kids in schools where they don't always know. I mean, there's adults that don't know how to kind of create a community for themselves, right? Like I've always been really good at creating a
Right.
community
Right.
and a network for myself, no matter where I was, because I
Mhm.
know that I need that to thrive.
Mhm.
Right. Some people are like,
Mhm.
no, I'm a lone wolf. I can go at
Right.
life by
Right. Right.
myself. And I'm
Right.
like, well, I
Right.
don't totally buy that
Right.
entirely. I think like humans are wired for connection, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I know for sure I'm wired for that,
Right.
and so I created that a lot for myself. And I think about the kids in schools that don't know how to do that yet. So they're frustrated, they're acting out, they're
Mhm.
having behaviors that are showing that they need something, right? We always,
Mhm.
talk about behavior is communication. They're
Mhm.
communicating that they need something. And you said something really interesting a little bit ago, before we started, about
Mhm.
kids having, kids being essentially good kid, not in
Mhm.
trouble, not, they're making good choices. And then all of a sudden they start making some different choices. It's not
Mhm.
because they just woke up and decided I'm going to make some bad choices today. It's they're very likely going through something. And how do we get that out of them? And how do we support them? And I know when you were growing up, you went through a lot of hard times, a lot of transitions, a lot of things that
Mhm.
felt out of your control. And you were a
Mhm.
kid going through those. I imagine you didn't have the skills to go through that very gracefully. Am I right?
Yeah, considering most adults don't, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
if I had a dime, um, for every time somebody said, Freddie, you were a good kid, what happened?
Oh,
I have an event coming up on the 11th where I'm going to be speaking to the system um, that that was the group home I was in, and I'm going to be talking to the kids that are in some of the group homes that I was
wow.
in, and I've had to like calm down before I go in there because And my wife said this, Freddie, they're not the ones that put you in there. And I know they're not.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm so like just want to angrily give this talk is because of what you just said. You don't, if you're a good kid, right? In good meaning, you're getting good grades, staying out of trouble, hanging around with the right people. That tells you I'm on the path. If I veer left, that should tell you there's things going on before I get to this building. You're not taking in account what's going on at home. And that's what really irks me about the system that we deal with is that we're only looking at the finished product and of the grades and the GPA and the extracurricular activities and what they're producing. We're not looking where are they coming from? What is their home look? What is going on before they get in this building? That he went from a good kid, good grades, all this, to now he's in a psych home. Like something here ain't, and it ain't is he's just a bad kid. Because if he was a bad kid, why didn't just start then? What's going
Right.
on that it turned into this? So I think we need to look more at that. And then quickly, you look, you know me that I'm real heavy on these unfortunate mass events at schools. And in every one of them stories, every one, change, change. And nobody caught it or didn't want to see it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's tough. I think that's one of the things that people are grappling with all the time as educators is there's so much to do, so much
Yup,
pressure, so many all the
yup,
things, right?
yup.
Uh and now teaching is not just teaching, it's you
No,
wear so many different hats, right? On
absolutely.
any given day, you're, a step-in parent, a counselor,
Yup.
a nurse, like whatever it is. Uh and there
You
are
got a
kids
lot of
that are
cardio. You had got a
yeah.
lot of cardio.
Oh yeah.
That's one thing I'll never forget when I was up there, which I'm like, she don't even sit down to eat.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
you walk and eat. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you were
uh
like literally running a mile while working.
yeah. And that's everybody. That's every educator
Yeah.
and administrator, if they're really involved and
Right.
not just sitting behind their desk every day, of course. Um, but there's kids that are silently sort of struggling with the changes that they're going through, whether it's personal
Mhm.
changes or changes in their world. Um, and I think it's hard to always know what to do about that. I think I'll
Mhm.
always go back to this story of Matt, my student that I had, God, 20 plus years ago. He was a seventh grader. Matt and I are
Mhm.
still close to this day because of this story. So and I don't know if you've heard this yet, but he was in seventh grade,
Huh.
fairly new to the school. He had only been there a couple of weeks,
Huh.
and all kinds of transition going on in his life. Just, I mean, every possible transition you can think of. And he also struggled academically very, very much. And I was in the classroom and I saw that the teacher, so it was a co-taught classroom. So it was myself and another teacher teaching together. And the other teacher said, okay, kids, get out your homework. And I saw Matt just out of kind of the corner of my eye take his paper, like his homework, out of his backpack and kind of look at it and then put it back in his backpack. And when she went to go collect it, he said, I don't have it. And she said, well, that's lunch detention, Matt. And he said, fine. So I waited for the class to kind of get settled again into the work that they were doing for the day. And I just kind of walked over to him and I said, hey, come talk to me out in the hallway real quick. You're not in trouble. I just, I have a question for you. So I went out in the hallway and we sat down in the hallway and I said, hey, I saw you take your homework out of your backpack and then tell her that you didn't have it. Like, what was that about? And he said, well, I kind of tried to do it, but I didn't really get a lot done and I didn't really know how to do it. And I don't have anyone at home to help me. So I didn't really want to turn it in like that. And that was the moment where Matt and I started to, we never officially said, okay, we're going to get you through this, right? But it was sort of this understood idea that I took 2 seconds to ask a further deeper question, right? Why didn't you turn in your homework? Not why didn't you in like an accusatory way, but in a real curious kind of way. And he was able to tell me he's got all these things going on at home. He didn't really feel confident in turning it in. He doesn't know how to do it. And to this day, Matt and I are still close because I took 45 seconds maybe to go out and talk to him real quick. And
Mm,
I think that I use that as an example all the time to say these things that we can do in schools for kids are not big, grandiose, hard things to do. They're the
mm,
small things that we
mhm,
need to just every time we have an opportunity to take the chance. Now, yes, in that situation, I could go take him out on the hall because there was another teacher in there. I understand that that's not always the case, right?
mhm.
But there's other times I could have, caught him at lunch that day. I could have even asked him the next day. Like I could have found other ways to try to get to what was going on with him if it couldn't be in that exact moment. And so what I always try to let educators know is there's so much on the plates of educators right now and what they and for always and what they have to do, and yet some of those things are so small, but they're actually so big, you
Yeah,
know
it's never the job description,
right.
you know. It's never in the
Yeah.
job description. The way the system is set up, you always have to do more with less. And that's what makes you special. The fact that you understand that. And think about the shame he's carrying,
Hmm.
that he don't want to turn that in, he don't want to say nothing to nobody, right? Because there's a judgment that your homework's not done and you don't have nobody to help you. And the Matt is the one whose restaurant, that right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he
tell
had a
that.
restaurant.
Tell that part. Tell that.
Yeah, well, yeah, so he struggled all the way through school, dropped out midway
Uh-huh.
through high school. He and I had a
Uh-huh.
conversation about that at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
wasn't judgment. It was, what do we need to do to get you on a path for your life? And
Mm-hmm.
so he was always really passionate about cooking. And
Mm-hmm.
so he opened a food truck for a
Mm-hmm.
while. And then he would, cater a lot of the different events that I would throw, but also, he was all around town. People were calling him to cater. And then he opened a restaurant. Now he's
Mm-hmm.
working in a different position elsewhere. And so he's experienced, that entrepreneurial life, right? That I always talk about with entrepreneurial education. And he has talked at length about the fact that he needed people to believe in him because he didn't believe in himself. He needed to be able to try things out and learn what he needed to learn, but how different his life would have been if he had known some of these skills with not just the logistical things of opening a business, which of course would have been helpful for him, but also just how to pitch himself, how to ask for loans. He's coming from a place where he he's a black man in America. Like he doesn't have the same privilege that a lot of people are going into different business ventures with. He didn't have connections, he didn't have a lot of knowledge, how to do this. He didn't know any other entrepreneurs. And so he really, had to figure that out along the way. But talk about building a community, he kept me close all those years, right? It wasn't just me reaching out to him all the time. It was him also reaching out to me. So it really was, group effort sort of thing. And it wasn't just me. He had a lot of other people in his life that were really supportive of him and helped him through that. And I think that's a big lesson with any kind of transition that you're going through, whether it's personally or professionally, is find your people, keep them close, ask for help, know that nobody does things but on their own. Nobody, doesn't matter who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody gets to the next phase of their life with help from other people. It's
Yep.
just who are those people going to be? And
Yep.
and really knowing and discovering who your people are. And that can change over time too. I've certainly learned that.
1,000% agree. I say all the time, people see the glory, don't know the story. Um, Without help, I'm not. I mean, like, who was I going to go to and ask, how do you speak around the country and run a business when you're talking schools?
Yeah.
Who's going to tell me how to do that? Who's going to tell me how to get my master's?
Yeah.
Neither
Well,
one of
how
my
did you
parents
do
had
that?
community,
Yeah.
asking around, LinkedIn. So I met you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you know.
Yeah, yeah, a little infomercial for LinkedIn really quick. Like, yeah,
I
that
know.
that has like changed my life,
uh,
your life, everyone's life. Some of my
yeah,
best
LinkedIn
friends to
changed.
this day are LinkedIn. It's crazy.
Yeah, LinkedIn. I
Yeah.
mean, LinkedIn too. Yeah, it completely changed. I mean, yeah, it did a lot for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, but I also think too, with this transition stuff, I learned through transition that I have to be on a schedule. Um, and I had
Talk more about
shame
that.
in, yeah, so it's funny, right? Like, I always say for people in recovery, there's two lives. There's your life pre-recovery and your life after. And in recovery, the first thing I'm noticing is who I was as a child. Some of them things are really who I am. And one of them things is I have to be on a schedule. And when you're an entrepreneur, I can only speak from my experience. So like a schedule for me might look like this, right? I got a meeting at 10 o'clock. I got a meeting at 3 o'clock. And in those meetings, I've secured a deal and they're lucrative deals. And I'm like, all right, I'm good. So my day is done because I've made money that day and I've secured something I was trying to do. So then the rest of the day, I might, watch sports, hang out, what I mean, take a nap. Well, the problem with that is that I might not have a meeting until 2 o'clock that next day. So I'll stay up all night, wake up at 12 in the afternoon. Well, in doing that, I'm eating terrible. I'm not working out. My household is really a mess because my wife's schedule is not mine, right? So we're off kilter. And so here's the other part. That's when it's good. Now let's flip it when it ain't, when I'm not making money and schools ain't calling me because you're going to go through that in this business. So now I get depressed because I'm not getting phone calls and that the phone's not ringing. And I'm wondering if I'm going to be able to do this. And yet my schedule hasn't changed because I'm not going to bed at night. And so what I learned is, and my pastor told me this, I told him in the beginning, I said, I need you to pray for me to get speaking gigs from schools. He said, I'm not paying for you to get speaking. I'm praying for you to be prepared for the blessings. And now I realize what he was saying. I have to be on schedule because I have to always be building the armor. I have to be eating right. I have to be working out. I have to have a regimen schedule. Okay, if I'm not in a meeting, I need to be doing this. And the reason I carried shame and the reason it bothered me is because I felt like when I was a child, my mom and people telling me, you need to be on a schedule. And in my mind, I wanted to break that. I wanted to say that I don't have to be on a schedule to be able to be successful. And I had to separate. And in therapy, I learned this that being on a schedule doesn't make me weak, it makes me human. I need a schedule. I have to be regimented. Like the way my mental illness is, the way my mind is, the way I'm built, the way I'm made. Freddie gotta be on a schedule. I have to know what I'm doing at all times because I have real severe ADHD. I'll veer off. And it don't matter about meds. It don't matter. And if I'm not on a schedule, um, I get erratic, right? Like all these different things. So yeah, I gotta be on a schedule.
I think that's great though, because I think that resonates. I know it resonates with me. It resonates with a lot of people probably that, being on a schedule feels so restrictive sometimes, whether you're on a
Structure.
schedule for a 9 to 5 job or whatever.
Mhm.
But I know in education, and all the educators listening are probably going to be nodding their heads, when summer comes, the schedule goes out the window. And it's not because you have nothing going on, because I'll tell you, educators spend most of their summer doing
Yeah.
trainings and
Yeah,
conferences and
absolutely. Absolutely.
reading and all the
I
things,
know.
right? But there's still a flexibility there that they don't have during the school year. And so everybody struggles when they have to go back to school, whether they're kids or the adults, of, oh God, okay, now I got to get back on a schedule. And it feels like this rebellious thing to, I don't want to be on a schedule. I want to have flexibility.
Mhm.
Seems great until you don't have a structure and then you
Mhm.
don't make those choices to set yourself up for success. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, time and time again, I've heard entrepreneurs, I've heard educators, everyone in between say that what helps them stay grounded is not just their people during different transitions, but it's keeping to a schedule. And I know that I haven't been a great example of that either. There's days where, until I'm back in a regular schedule, yeah, I stay up a little bit later and I do, so many different things throughout the day that I don't know, every day looks a little bit different, which is great in some respects, but it definitely doesn't set me up for success to really feel like productive for the day. So
Yep.
I think that that's a really important point that you
Yep.
made. And I think that's something that people can do for their kids, they can do for themselves, they can do for their schools, is to have those structured schedules, or at least help when I think about kids going on break, right? It's hard enough for educators to stay structured on a break of any kind. We're about to get them to summer now,
Hmm.
uh, as we're recording this, and there's kids that are just going to be like all over the place this summer. And it's, can we as educators help them figure out what a real simple schedule can be for themselves throughout the day? If their parents aren't able to do that with them for whatever reason, can schools help do that for them? Can schools help do that for each other? What are some things that in those end of the year staff meetings can you
Hmm.
do hey guys, let's take 5 minutes. What's your schedule going to look like this summer? Let's really, get it to where everyone's setting themselves up for success throughout the summer, because it matters a lot. It really does.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you know the difference between fear that's keeping you stuck and fear that means you're about to grow? I'll
Oh,
let you go first.
well, you know what I'm going to say. So anytime there's a transition or a
Yep, and
change,
you're definitely in a transition.
I definitely am in all the ways.
Yeah.
That to me, and everyone that knows me knows what I'm about to say. When something is both terrifying
Hmm.
and exciting at the same time for
Hmm.
me, that's how I know it's worth it. So for me, I can tell the difference between fear and just being stuck, because if it's just fear, I don't move forward. I am sort of paralyzed by that fear often, right?
Hmm.
uh but when there's fear and I can identify, whether it's through therapy, through journaling, through just self-reflection,
Hmm.
all of which I'm a huge advocate for, if I can identify that I'm really afraid, but also there's like something about that feels exciting to me, then I move forward, uh at a rapid speed often, because I know that that's worth doing if I'm excited also. um that's the biggest thing for me. It's sort of like my life motto, right? Is be reflective enough to think about, if I'm scared but I'm also kind of excited by this choice that I have to make, or this transition I'm about to go through, then that excitement is what carries me through that. It's what kind of buffers the fear along the way, because it's also exciting. So that combination to me is the combination that makes me feel the most alive. It makes me feel the
Hmm.
most confident that what I'm doing is about to be amazing and totally worth it.
Right.
And that is the advice that I often give to others.
Well, I gotta say, as a person that's blessed enough to be in your life and get to follow you for real, not just on a podcast that really like knows you. It's been amazing to watch you go through these transitions because these are hard things. These are hard things. You know, it's
Yeah,
it's it's hard to transition. Life and families, and it's hard, man.
yeah.
Um,
But it's less hard when you have community and when you have a structure
yeah,
and when you have that reflection to
yeah.
know what you're doing is you're on the right path. All of it makes it less hard.
So totally, totally. Yeah, I remember. I'll give you an example. This is the best way I can do storytelling. Give you an example.
Yeah.
You know when I know my life had like really changed. Everybody keep asking me this, and I thought there's two times it happened, but these are the two most that come to my mind. The first was when my mom was in the hospital and it was pretty much over, and because she had like went to the hospital twice, and she was sick, and like, the doctor was like, "Yo, it's over," because she didn't want to take chemo. And so I told her I was going to come home, and she said, "No, you're not. You're going to go out and you're going to help them kids. You're going to come home." I knew then that like I was in this new life because my mom had accepted that this is where you're at, this is who you're going to be, and this is what we're doing. And that had never happened to me before. That where like I had accepted like I have a new life. And like the person that's been with me my whole life understands I got a new life. And it's like she's telling me this life is so important that you don't need to come home to worry about me. Do what you're doing. And that was powerful to me that like, I mean, at the time it hurt, but it was powerful that like I was going to a school to talk while she was dying because she thought that what I was doing was more important than that day. The second
Yeah.
time, the second time it happened was I was when I was in Africa, I'll never forget this. I'll never forget this. I'm sitting, I'm looking around, right? And um and I'm realizing like this is different. Like, 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 like it's one thing to speak at a school. It's one thing, you travel, you go to a state. It's a whole nother issue when you're in another country and you're talking to them and explaining to them about your life and mental health and services. And it hit me like I'm really in this. Like I'm really in this. And when I say in this, like there wasn't no fear. It felt normal. So my point to saying all that is that I think it's easier to make a decision or move when it feel normal. Like yes, in life you're gonna have fear no matter what you do, right? Like there's fear of anything. Like there's fear when you go order food, you're hoping it comes out the way it always comes out. There's fear when you get in the shower, you hope that the water's hot like you need it to be, right? Like there's fear in life no matter what you do. But I think it's different when you walk it and it just feel normal. Like when you were building that school, there was fear that it comes out right. But as you were doing it, you were so in tune and knew so much what you were doing, and you understood education so well that it was normal because you knew it. You're in it. You know what I mean? Like when I came to your school, I wouldn't have tell that you were a first year. I wouldn't have knew that was the first school you built because it was normal. You know what I mean? So I think that's what people need to understand. Like get away from the fear of it and look at what you're doing. How does it feel? Because for me, when I'm speaking, it feels like what I am supposed to be doing. It don't feel like a job. Like it don't feel like, yeah, was I scared? The biggest event I ever had, I don't know how many people were there. There's a lot of people there, but was I scared? Yeah, but I practiced so much that when I got up there, so after the first couple minutes, I'm like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so great because it's the normalizing feeling a little bit afraid to do that next thing,
Yeah.
right? When you're in a transition, whether you're kids or adults, normalizing talking about, yeah, I'm afraid about this, but I'm going to be okay, and here's how I know that, or here's why I know this is worth doing, or why I feel like this is what I should be doing right now.
Yep.
So I think it's a lot about talking with each other, talking with kids, normalizing transitions, normalizing change. It's the one thing that stays the same is that there's always going to be change, right? Like that's the one thing we
All
can always count on. So
always.
we all the time, always and all the time, there's going to be change throughout our lives. And so being able to normalize that and say, yep, I'm going through change again. This is how I can get through it. This is what I'm going to do for myself. This is how I'm going to make it feel normal to go through this next phase. I'm going to make it feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and really be in touch with that so that when you do feel misaligned, you can pay attention to that and not keep moving forward if it feels like a misalignment.
Yep.
I will tell you, when I walked in. So I don't know, who may be listening to this, but I just accepted a new position
Yeah,
at
big
the,
ups. Come on, we need
yeah,
to,
thank
we
you.
need to like
Thank
clap
you. I'm
about
very
that.
excited.
I'm so proud of you. You deserve it. They're blessed to have you. Like you're so humble. So she didn't want to tell y'all, but I'm here to tell you. She's the best there is. She's one of the best educators I've ever met. And I'm not saying that because I know I'm saying that because it's real. She is life changing. She does it. She gets it. Like I wish my
All
kids could go
right.
to school where you're
All right, settle down. Okay. So so I'm saying this because it's it's a small alternative high school in Douglas
Mm,
County Schools, which is in Parker, Colorado, and it's called
mhm.
the Venture Academy of Leadership and Entrepreneurship, so VAIL
Yeah.
for short.
Yeah.
And when you said to make things feel normal, to make things
Mhm.
feel like at home, to make the, like things are less scary in a transition when you feel like you're supposed to be there. Freddie, when I walked in there for one of the very, multiple rounds of interviews, I felt like I was walking into home. I felt
Mm,
like it was so normal for me to be
mm,
there. It was so,
mm,
welcoming. The staff was amazing. The parent and the student panels that were there were incredible.
mm,
That's one of those ways that I knew I was where I needed to be, because,
mm,
and it's not that I haven't felt that other places. I have.
mm,
Um, I felt that in the school that I built, right? But there's something about the transition now that made me know, oh, this is normal for me to be here. This doesn't feel scary or unusual. It's there's the fear of a new place and learning new things and just wrapping your mind around all the newness of things, but it felt normal to be there, and I'm so excited to be able to start there, because yeah, it feels like home. So I'm really excited that you are going to hopefully come out in August and be out in Colorado. So
we have to do a
shout
we got
out.
to do a live. We should do a live thing
Yes.
while I'm out there.
Oh, that would be
Yeah,
amazing. Yes.
yeah,
And for anybody that's listening,
yeah.
if you are in Colorado in
Yes.
August, mid to late
Mm-hmm.
August,
Mm-hmm.
Freddie's going to be here. He'd love
Mm-hmm.
to, book some other places while he's here. That makes it easy. He's already in town.
Yep.
Um, and for anyone else, right? This is what you do now. 100% of the
Yes.
time you travel the world and you tell your story, and it is impactful and amazing. And I would love for people to go to your website. Freddie, is it frederickshagog.com or Freddie
No, it's
Shagog?
Freddie Shagog. Yep.
Freddie Shagog,
Freddie Shagog. I did that
freddieshagog.com.
make my mom mad because she wanted Frederick. So I said no. I was a good rebellious. I said I'm making it Freddie.
Well, I know you as Freddie, so that makes sense,
Yeah.
to me anyway. But yeah, I would love for people to hear you in person, and I know you do Zoom also, and you're incredible, of course. But in person is really so impactful,
Yeah.
and it's a way that you change the world with what you do. So
Yes. And I think people need to know too, like, and I don't know if we told the story, but I didn't walk into this knowing what I'm doing because you can't go to college and become a motivational speaker. But I remember the first time I was on the phone with you, I had no idea what I was talking about. I felt like, so you noticed when I was on the phone with you the first time, I felt like I botched the call because you were talking about and had a vocabulary and saying things that I had no idea. All I knew was I talk and I just get paid for it. So however much money you got, that's what I need. I didn't know
yeah,
nothing.
and
And
this
your
was what,
language,
5 years ago? About 5 years
yeah,
ago?
and your
Yeah,
language was so flowery, like you're in it, like you know what you're talking about. And I was like, oh. And I remember like you had said stuff, and I was like, oh. And like I couldn't reply because I didn't even know what you were talking about. When I get off the phone, I like looked up all these words. This is a true story. I like look, I was like, man, well, I guess I botched that. And I felt all sad. And now look,
oh,
yeah.
that's crazy. I would have never known that in a million years.
Yeah, I had no
Like,
idea what I was.
and that's the thing, right? You just got to go for it sometimes, and you be
Yeah. So I
yourself.
didn't
Because I
really
was
know what
just
I was
myself
doing.
on that call too, right? Like we were just
Yeah.
both ourselves, and
I didn't know what I was doing. I
yeah,
had no idea what I was doing. And you just called me and I was like, oh, cool.
yeah. Yeah,
So
because I saw you on LinkedIn and I
yeah,
loved that you were talking about, specifically men's mental health and mental
yeah,
health in the Black community. And I wanted to know how to support that, right? And I just
yep.
love that you were working on that. And so we just talked and we just had an authentic conversation. And never in a million years would I have thought that you weren't anything other than the most brilliant version of you. So there you go.
Well, now I'm going to take you to dinner at Ted Montana Grill. I'm finally going to treat you. I
Well, we'll
finally
see.
have enough. No, I can't wait. I'm so excited. And I'm proud of you. Listen, to our viewers, forgive us. We had hiatus because of life.
Life.
I got twin grandbabies coming. I got twin grandbabies coming. Uh,
Amazing. When
yeah.
are they due to be born?
So November 6th, they gave her a date, was going to be before that. I'm trying to get her to have them on November 7th because that's my birthday.
Okay, well, good luck with that.
And then I'm also trying to get one of them named after me because one's going to be a boy because they're twins, but they know one's going to be a boy. And that's
Yeah.
not working out so well either. But I'm
Oh my
trying.
gosh.
Yeah, so no, God is
Yeah.
good. And you just met my granddaughter. She calls you Aunt Laura. Her name's Olivia.
Yep. Amazing. Yeah, lots of life has happened, but I'm
Yeah,
glad to be back doing this with you. And of course,
me
we've
too.
talked in between, but we
Yeah,
just hadn't, put it on a podcast. So now we've put it on a podcast talking about life
yeah.
transitions. Hopefully, people felt, that they could relate and found some
Right.
value in it. And I'm excited to do our next episode.
Me
Hopefully,
too.
not so far in the future.
Me too. Bless you. Please visit all of our stuff and just thank you for what you do. We're blessed. We're
Yep.
lucky. And keep your head up. I know the world's going through a lot. There are people out here trying to make it better.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, Freddie. Good to talk to you.
Peace. Bye.
Bye.